Good morning, my friends. Sandra over at Nana's Worms and Garden asked me to do a video to show how our property survived our Florida January or Florida winter. For us, our frost dates are January 1st to 31st. We did have a cold front that moved through Christmas weekend, and we had some weather that got down to, I think it was 30, 31 degrees. And so I wanted to show you just, what survived and what did. We had another one about a week or so ago, and I'll take you over here and show you. The marigolds, they held up pretty well, but they're about ready to be pulled out. And the reason I haven't pulled them out yet is because I wanted to hang on to my little barrier here. I have people who come and walk their dogs, and darn if the dogs don't like to come over here. If there's nothing here, then the dogs will come along and they'll use this as their telephone pole, let's say. The place they're going to leave messages for their friends. Anyway, you guys have been to my yard many times, and so I will start over on the left side where the flag is. And the Liriope could go down to 20 degrees, and I don't think it would be bothered. That's the grassy part down here at the bottom. And then the ligustrum, like a champ, took it. The bougainvillea doesn't like really freezing cold, but it really did withstand going down to 30 degrees. That's a braided, bougainvillea really isn't a tree. It doesn't have a real heavy bark like a tree would, but the vine base will grow and grow and grow thicker and thicker. And this was originally done around a stick of wood, so that it has kind of like that braided, and it gives it extra strength. Underneath you have pentas. Anytime I find pentas in the yard, I just kind of bring them out here and plant them. Some of them take and some of them don't. The vincas, I planted them probably 10 years ago, and the seeds drop and they keep regerminating, keep spreading. I've cleaned up a little bit. Oh, I know what I wanted to show you, and Sandra especially, is I'm almost out of my Drake elm leaves. Every day I scrape off what's here on the top, and it gives it a chance to kind of dry out, and then I put it through my NutriBullet, which pulverizes it. But this is pretty much the end, so I figure I'm going to run out of leaves that I'm feeding to my worms probably about April maybe, or May, and so I'll have to wait until next fall, whenever they dry out. And this is the Drake elm tree that is just covered, and it provides great shade for us all summer long. And then come fall, it starts to seed and it starts to lose its leaves, and I used to complain about it, and now I go, oh goody goody, because now I know what to do with the leaves. Anything that you know what to do with, it becomes who knew what to do with gold before? Somebody said, wow, that's gold, let's make that special. So and its seeds are wonderful because the squirrels and birds get up there and they eat all the seeds. Thank goodness the ones I do find down below keep germinating. Up the walkway I planted, actually these were little tiny amaryllis bulbs, just the little shoots on the side, and I plant them every year, and then I once they get big enough, then I go ahead and I transplant those and put them out in my garden or put them in bigger pots. This is some actually it's some lettuce that just went and bolted, and I left it go to seed, and I want to see if the seeds, if I can get the seeds to come to fruition. Carrots behind it with a few little weeds in it. Oh, these are Drake elm seeds that have sprouted, and if you keep, I just keep pulling them because I don't want Drake elm trees everywhere. Curly blue kale, and what is that? Red mustard, Japanese red mustard. The plants behind it, the one on the left is a cranberry hibiscus, and the one on the right is an avocado. I think the avocado is going to go. The gardenia, it survived, but it always looks more yellow than green, and I'm not sure if it's just not getting the right nutrients here, and I'm not sure quite what to do with it. I've had to come through and try to weed my, as you can see, I'm getting Drake elm sprouts everywhere. I think at some point I'm going to have to take the liriope and dig it up and cut it in half, and maybe either start again or put something else out here. Every garden looks great until it doesn't, and then they kind of outgrow themselves. And this has probably been about 6 years, and it's probably almost time for a change. The azaleas, this is a Formosa azalea, and the builder put it in. This was 15 and a half years ago, and I've cut it back a few times. I try to keep it pruned, and so it is what it is. It's starting to get old, probably needs to be taken out also. I have milkweed that blew in probably 12 years ago from my neighbor's yard across the street, and it comes back every year, and the monarch butterflies just seem to love it, and so we just keep that. This was my little planter that I put out last year. Actually, it was this spring, and I had tomatoes growing in it, and the tomatoes did really well. That was the Everglades tomatoes, and they did just fine even through the freeze, but all I was getting was they would go to green, and the Everglades tomato is a non-determinate, and so it just kept getting taller and taller and taller. I don't want a 12-foot tomato plant out here. And then down this side, Rick just trimmed the shrubs, and he won't trim them by hand. He insists on using a hedge trimmer, and so you get what you get. It's getting skinnier, and the crotons behind it did not like the cold. I can see leaves were dropped. I came through, I weeded, I cut back some of them, and they're still dropping. So let me go to the backyard now and see what I can see. So here we are at the backyard, and this is my tumbler. I've just been starting to harvest some of the castings. It's not castings, this is compost that comes out of here, and I'm using my sifter set and using the bigger hold sifter. We just spent, I spent over a week out here trying to weed, and Rick helped me on Monday. He gave me a couple hours of help, and it was really helpful. These are the tea plants, cordylans, and they're probably looking the best out of the whole thing, and you can see that they really took some frost damage. They did not like the cold. So all of these will get pulled off, and possibly they'll survive, and I hope they do anyway. The peace lilies, spathiphyllum, they did not like that cold. Peace lilies are the drama queens of the flower garden. They don't like it too hot, they don't like it too cold, they don't like it too wet, they don't like it too dry. But when they look good, they look good. And you could see they were just starting to put out some blooms. But I could come along and cut all this back and refurbish it, and we'll see. We'll let that go. You can see some that I planted that were on the back porch actually, and they seem to have fared okay. So maybe those will take off and be terrific. The plumeria, I'm not seeing any real damage on it. I mean, if you had damage on it, they would have been soft. So another, usually somewhere in April, I start to see the leaves coming out, and that'll be back. I think everything else. Oh, this is the one of the two mangoes, and all of the leaves on the top just kind of bit the dust there. They all laid down, but this seems quite viable. That looks green at the top, so it might end up, I'm not sure if I'm going to give it a snip here so that it goes and divides. A lot of the amaryllis almost need to be, trimmed back so that they can start again. Again, see, here's the cordylans, here's the tea plants, and you can see the ones on this side really took a hit underneath. They're still viable, they still have some beautiful tops to them, but all this underneath part needs to be cleaned out. The Brazilian spinach, you can see where it got hit on the tips, but this thing is a beast. If anybody can get a hold of Brazilian spinach, my friend gave me just a little 3-inch little piece of it, and it has just, look at this. I have it over here in the center too. You could use this as a ground cover or a weed deterrent and just come along. The leaves are a little thick, so it's not the sort of spinach that you want to come along and go, yum, and munch. At the very least, I could chop it up and give it to the worms, but or use it for compost. But the best way of making this is just to cut off all the leaves, discard the stems, and then cook it in like a skillet with some water and wilt it, and then add maybe some piece of bacon or a little bit of pork, or if you wanted to add chicken or whatever your protein is of choice. You could, of course, go more vegetarian and just cook it with eggs. That would be great. Here's the other magnolia. I'm sorry, the other mango. And isn't it funny? It's only probably 20 feet away from it, and it sustained no damage at all. The other one looked stronger, but this one made it through. This is where I had all of my sweet potatoes, and I pulled everything out, and then I had tomatoes in here, and I pulled those out, and so I'm letting the ground just kind of rest for a bit. Let's see, what else do I have to tell you? Oh, the moringa, I was really surprised. I thought I was going to cut that back, and I didn't, and it made it. And the one over there in the center made it too, which was really surprising because as cold as it got, I didn't think the moringa would make it. There's nothing really exciting down there. The Japanese yews, Podocarpus, made it quite well. We cleaned up here. I had some pentas and things growing. I had so many weeds. We get winter weeds, and it was like the summer weeds decided not to die, and instead they joined the winter weeds, and I was just thick in artillery plant is the one that just is so prolific here. And let's see if I can show you what it looks like. I think we got most of it. You can see I just have these little weeds growing here. I had tomatoes growing in this pot, and look at them. Look. Once you have Everglades tomatoes, Rick calls them forever tomatoes, because once you have them, they'll just keep coming back. The hibiscus made it. It's probably time to cut it back and let it do a fresh, flush out and stronger. The agapanthus, they come through a freeze with no problem. The big one. The hibiscus at the end. There's some sweet potatoes, vines that are still keep trying to come back. I dug up some of it. I'm trying to do a no-dig method. This was my, you're probably wondering, what is she talking about? This was the cold hardy figs. And you can see, can you see that? There's a little green tip on each. And I have one over here. Oh, you can see there's a green tip. I'm sure hoping they come back. I don't like to buy things and have them not come back. The ones I got from the American Fig Company, they started out and then they just died back. That was it. I wasn't happy with that at all, but that's another story. Sweet alyssum. I planted this last summer, and amazing that it made it through the summer. It really hung on. You can see there's a little bit midway, and then there's some down at the end. And it kind of got seedy and weedy, but really seedy. I'll show you the seedy part. See how it's like there? Now, if you lift this, I want to lift this and show you how these seeds just drop. And now here's more. It hasn't started to flower yet, but you can see those are all little seedlings. And if I wanted to, I could dig those up and just start moving them around. See, there's an extra. There's a little one that's just ready to put on some. And the smell is just incredible. But what I wanted to show you, and I forgot my packet, is the red crimson clover. And that's what this is. It was just 2 little packets that I got from Baker's Creek. And if I do this next year, which I probably will, because look at the ground cover. I mean, isn't that great? This will help hold back weeds, help put some nitrogen in the soil. I think it's beautiful. Oh, and the feel of it. It feels like you're running your hands just over cotton. It's just so beautiful. This is my other. This is called the 20th Century, and it's an Asian pear, and it came through the cold. It's supposed to need 150 hours of cold time, so this was perfect. I mean, we've had some cold nights. I wouldn't say really any more than our usual. We're going to have a little bit more cold coming through. You know, when you have these cold fronts that are coming out of the north and then through the Midwest and across to the Atlantic, they're never quite sure how far south it's going to get. You know, sometimes we hear we're going to get a freeze, and then, you know, a freeze is 40 degrees, and so it's iffy at best. So anyway, the moringas, as you can see, these I did cut back probably 1st of December, and most of them, some are a little iffy. I'm not sure if it needs to be cut back further. This one, you can see how tall it is, and it started to resprout here, so I will go ahead and cut that one back. Same along the way. We're still having our moringa powder in our yogurt every morning. Oh, the peach tree. This was the Florida Prince Peach, and you can see it's still got a few little leaves on the ends of it. I'm hoping that in another couple months we'll start to see some buds. I think that's about it. I hope this lets everybody know how we're surviving. Oh, those tea plants, that's TI. Tea plants or cordyline, whichever you call it. The ones on this side kind of look really ratty. You know, I've got one there, and then I've got those kind of, everything along here really took the hit. This was probably the best of it. And it looks good from here until you get up on it. So anyway, everyone, as you can see, the preserve survived just fine. If I had really great eyes, there's some bald eagles